So welcome everyone to Salem Alliance for the Environment, or otherwise known as SAFE's meeting this evening. We want to welcome all of our attendees, both the folks that we've seen many times before and any newcomers that might be here tonight. Tonight's topic is going to be Resilient Together, Salem and Beverly Take on the Climate Challenge. And we're going to have a guest speaker, Esmeralda Bassano from the City of Salem speak, as well as I'll give you a quick little tutorial through the program itself. We'd ask that the participants stay muted during the presentation, just so that everyone can hear the presentation as good as possible, and that you add any of your questions in the chat, or you can put the question itself in the chat, or you can just let us know that you have a question there. Pat Kazemba is going to be monitoring the chat area and may interrupt us as appropriate to answer your question, or we'll just simply hold the questions till the end. And this presentation is going to be recorded. As Dave just mentioned, we are going to be recording it to make it available for future uses. So if you have an issue with that and you don't want to be there, you may want to either mute your video or take other considerations. We'd like to certainly ask, if you aren't already, to follow us on salemsafe.org or our Facebook page or Twitter, which is also Salem Safe. And with that, we will move on. Perhaps. My slide lets me. Hold on. So tonight's agenda, Esmeralda Bassano is going to be providing us an overview of the Resilient Together project itself. We'll spend about 15 to 20 minutes on that. And then I will walk you through the actual website that's been created and how community members can participate. And then we'll take questions and answers from there. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and get started. So Esmeralda, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight and for having me. My name is Esmeralda Bassano, and I work for the City of Salem as the Sustainability and Resiliency Coordinator. Previously, I helped run the Solarize 2019 to 2020 program, which promoted discounted prices on solar PV, air source heat pumps, and solar hot water. And now we have this exciting new project. I'm the project manager on the Salem side for this climate action and resilience plan being developed with the City of Beverly. So tonight I'm happy to share more about the planning process and answer any questions that you all may have. So if you have any questions during the presentation, as Cindy said, please enter them in the chat. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A. So oh, yeah, you can do that. Resilient Together is Salem and Beverly's plan to prepare for the inevitable effects of climate change that we will all face, as well as implementation steps we can take to reduce our impact to the climate catastrophe. Overall, we're pretty much in line with the Massachusetts 2050 decarbonization roadmap, but our communities are striving to be leaders in the state, and we would like to be more aggressive with our goals and actions. We're currently still in development of the plan and figuring out how we will accomplish all of this. So once we have a final draft of the plan, I would be very happy to come back on to a SAFE meeting and present those results with you all. So as this slide states, the plan is funded by an MVP program. So that stands for the Municipal Vulnerability Program. So the MVP program funds several small and large-scale projects throughout the Commonwealth that aid in protecting communities that are vulnerable to the climate threat, as well as projects that help mitigate our contribution to climate change. So this plan is really doing both of those for our coastal communities in Beverly and Salem. In 2018, the City of Beverly applied for the MVP Action Grant to fund a climate action plan for their city. The grant was approved, and Beverly Mayor Cahill and his team decided to ask Mayor Driscoll in the City of Salem if we would like to partner with them on this plan and make it more of a regional approach. Of course, we were very excited and we agreed, and now here we are. We're right in the middle of developing the plan. Next slide. So this is an overview of the planning process. It started in July of 2020 and it's going until June of this year. Just recently, as you can see, we finished task 1 and task 2, which is developing a greenhouse gas inventory, a baseline assessment, and goal setting. So the GHG inventory has been posted on our website, which Cindy will go through after this presentation. I also have a few slides, upcoming slides with some results from the GHG inventory. And the inventory has a baseline year of 2018. Another important task we just finished is goal setting. The consultants are currently working on finalizing the document with the city's goals, and that will soon also be posted on our website. But because this is an iterative process, we still have some time to continue refining these goals and setting more concrete numbers and dates. The Resilient Together team is currently identifying and prioritizing the actions we need to take to complete our goals. So I'll soon go over how we're doing this and what framework we're following for the goals and actions of the plan. As you can see on the top here, community engagement is extremely important part of the plan, and it's going to be ongoing throughout the entire process. So towards the end of the presentation, I'll also go through how we're engaging the community and what we still need to do to reach those communities that are often left behind in processes like this. Next slide, please. So these are the 7 plan elements that we have. Each of these elements represents a key area of the community that needs to be considered as it relates to climate change contributions and impacts. So the cities and the consultants work together to create these 7 plan elements that we thought were the best routes to achieve our goals and set implementable actions. And as I've said previously, we're working hard to exceed Massachusetts' current goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. We'll do this in several steps and separate it by municipal, public, and private sectors in our city. So I'll give you all just a couple seconds if you want to look at some of these different plan elements. Okay, next slide. And these are our guiding principles: greenhouse gas reduction, community resilience, healthy natural ecosystems, economic vitality, equity, and public health. So what these are basically the lens in which we're going to evaluate all of our goals and actions for each plan element. The consultants provided us with an evaluation framework, and that's going to help us work through each goal and action step by step. And we'll kind of give a grade to each of those actions based on all of these principles. Next slide. Okay, so now the next few slides are about the GHG emissions. So these are very interesting, so I'll give you all a few minutes to look at it if you'd like. And I also want to say the inventory, the full inventory is on our website if you all want to download that as well and take a look at that. So as you can see here, buildings and transportation take up the vast majority of emissions contributions in each of our cities. So on this first one, Salem is in dark blue and Beverly is in orange. So Beverly is a little bit higher when it comes to emissions. Then there's the percentages and the numbers down below. Okay, next slide. So this is just another example of the emissions results. Here on the right are the same results we saw on the last slide, but just in graph form. And then here on the left, you have the emissions results by fuel type. And then this little R and C next to them represent residential and commercial. So this first one is Salem, and you can see that electricity, commercial electricity is, wait, is that, sorry, these colors are a little hard to look at. Oh no, so residential natural gas is actually the highest in Salem, which kind of makes sense. All right, next slide. And this just shows a comparison between Beverly and Salem and some other communities. So you have the US here, Massachusetts in the middle, and then all the way to the right is Boston. So Beverly and Salem emissions are higher than they are in Boston. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'm sure all of you on this call know why we're embarking on this plan and the vulnerability that we face as a coastal community. So these three right here are the largest climate change impacts that we're currently facing and will continue to face. Of course, sea level rise, increased intense storms, and heat waves as well, among many others. Next slide. So this slide is just a simple way of showing the pathway that leaders need to take to achieve climate resilience. We need to, of course, prepare and adapt to our changing climate and society, as well as reduce our impacts. So these are the pathways we're taking in Resilient Together so that we can achieve climate resilience as a whole. Next slide. So now we want to hear a little bit from you all, just from what we've shown so far and anything that you all know. What does resilience mean for Salem? What are some things that we should do, some goals or some actions that maybe you all have in mind? You can feel free to type them in the chat throughout the presentation. I can give you a few seconds now just to think on it. But again, we really want to hear from the community. This plan is for the community. So that's very important to us. All right, you can do the next slide. So community engagement. Engaging the community on Resilient Together and climate change in general has been the most rewarding aspect of this project for me personally, but it's also been one of the most difficult. As I'm sure you all know, finding the best way to engage the community on a topic that they may not know or they may not care about is a hassle on its own. Now with COVID-19 and everything happening in the world, it's proven to be more difficult. But of course, there are many innovative ways that we can do this. So this slide shows some of the main ways that we're engaging the community. So we do have surveys. We had one large survey that that ran from late September to early November. And that was based on scoping the priorities of the community on climate action. For that survey, we got over 1,000 responses. And in the next few slides, I will share some of those results. But also now we're running a Mind Mixer campaign. So that is a website where you create an account and we have questions for each different plan element that I showed earlier. And it's kind of like a discussion board. So you can go in and discuss and you can reply to other people what they post as well. So Cindy is going to go through that after I present. Also, we conducted interviews with city staff and city departments. So we really wanted to get their views and their take on the process and how we can move forward in implementing the actions from the plan, because it's going to be a lot of city staff and city departments that are going to be working on this. And social media, of course, we have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account, which gives us additional opportunities in engaging the community. Salem has also recently hired an intern who's going to be running the social media accounts from now to the springtime. So that's really helped us as well. And these last three, I'll go over in a little bit more detail in the next slides, but we have equity partners, ambassadors, and we also have a really great video that's you can check out on the top of our website once you check that out. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I have some of the results here from that first survey that we had, which had over 1,000 responses. So on this one, you can see some of the concerns that people have. So how concerned are you that climate change will affect Beverly and Salem? People are obviously very concerned. It's interesting that 9% said not concerned. How prepared is your city to address climate change? You can see there's more of a variety in those answers. A third didn't know how prepared we are. Another third said not prepared. Another third said somewhat, but very, very, very few said that we're very prepared. How important is it for the cities to take action on climate change? Very good that most people said it's very important. How often do you read information about climate change? So another variety in those answers there. Okay, next slide. So this one, the next section asked about the impact of climate change. So as you can see here, sea level rise and intense storms are by far the hazards of most concern to residents, which makes sense as our communities are coastal communities. And some of the other answers were drought, extreme heat, flooding, intense storms, and sea level rise. 7% said none of these. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this section asked about the priorities. So we separated the questions by each plan element, and they all had about equal concern from survey respondents. So on this second graph, you can see that respondents were more concerned by natural resource degradation than some others, like economic impact, loss of biodiversity, etc. So from these results, we can definitely set priorities based on what they think are of most concern. Okay, next slide. And to ensure an equitable process, we asked demographic questions as well to see how we were engaging with different parts of the community. The most noticeable thing on these graphs are that most respondents are homeowners, but I'm actually not sure the overall percentages of homeowners to renters in Salem, but it's definitely interesting to see. And then most respondents have lived in these communities for 20 years. And then over here for age, there's much more of a variety. Okay, next slide.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So this is John Hayes. I'm the chair of CERC. I just in the mail today got my second postcard mailing from the mayor regarding the survey for the if we've been impacted by the COVID-19. If we've done 2 of these for the city, maybe we could do one of these to just kind of get more at the renters. Because to have that survey so oriented, the responses have been from homeowners, owners of property versus renters. I think we should try to have KLA and the city maybe try to do another survey, try to get at the renters better.
Definitely.
I mean, this is the second time, and this is the second one, so if the city can do this, we could do one of these for the survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this slide is just more examples of demographic questions. 91% of respondents identify as white and Caucasian. So down here in the bottom, these are just the percentages in the community, what they identify as. So it was sort of in line with that, but we definitely could do better in engaging with other people in the community. Okay, next slide. So just want to talk a little bit about the importance of equity. Equity is one of the guiding principles of our plan. And while all the guiding principles are definitely important, we have a high priority for equity. In terms of demographics, again, both cities have a diverse population. with Salem having a greater diverse range of race, non-English speaking, immigrant, and low-income communities. Also, just want to say about 31% of Salem's population lives in environmental justice communities, which, as you all know, makes them the most vulnerable to the climate crisis. So we want to make sure that we're doing right by these community members and making this a priority. Next slide. So these are some of the steps that we're doing to make sure that this process is equitable. We have a Climate Action Advisory Committee, which Cindy Keegan is a part of. There are over 35 members from different sectors. We have youth and underrepresented groups. We have people from city committees, nonprofits, local developers, much more, representatives from the hospitals in Beverly and Salem, the colleges. And these on the right are just some examples of the different organizations that are partnering with us. And we have equity partners, which are nonprofits to help us with outreach. And they're also paid for any of the outreach that they do. We have ambassadors as well, which are individuals. They are mostly college students and community members that get paid to promote the plan in various ways. So one example of that is someone from the Sunrise Movement in Salem State. They are planning to do a Zoom meeting at their school just to talk more about this. So that's one way that they're doing that. And also they're posting on their own social media pages as well. And then of course, community outreach. So attending various community meetings and direct outreach. Us being here on the SAFE meeting is one way that we're doing that. So thank you again for having us. Okay, next slide. And these are some of the engagement actions we're doing as well. So most of the materials are translated into Spanish, Portuguese, and Albanian. The survey, we had those 3 languages as well, but we had very low responses for them, unfortunately. So we are going to have to up our game for the second survey and figure out ways that we can engage those communities better. Collaboration with nonprofits, community groups, businesses, and schools. We're utilizing social media. We have virtual meetings with a lot of these different partners. We have a range of materials online. And again, this is an iterative process. So even though the planning process ends in July, of course, we have many, many years more of implementing these goals and actions. And we're definitely going to keep those partnerships that we have with those groups. Next slide, please. Okay. So I will thank you all again. And please, I'm going to check out the chat now to see what you all are saying. And again, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat and we'll have a Q&A session at the end.
Do you want to go ahead and take a few questions if there are any regarding the actual plan before I start actually maybe while I'm bringing up the website, because I'll have to stop and start again here?
Yeah, sure. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or any comments.
There are lots of comments in the chat, Esmeralda. One of the first ones I made was to create more rain gardens to capture stormwater runoff. I know Salem Sound Coast Watch has done a great job. I especially love the one that's at Winter Island and the explanatory graphics that go with it. Jeff Cohen mentioned the supporting, we can support resiliency and with both the green building ordinance that is before the city council, and we'll be keeping you updated on when that begins to move out of subcommittee. So I want to just start with that, Cindy, and then if you want to go ahead.
Sure. So it's sharing now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So again, for anyone who wants to go to this website, we wanted to just, kind of walk people through just so that everybody got a chance to actually see it. Because if any of you are like me, I think, oh, I'm going to get there, and then I don't. And so oftentimes just actually getting a chance to kind of get a quick orientation really helps, cement the idea of what's there and entice you to go look at it more, right? So, so it's just simply resilient-together.org is the website itself. And as Merelda mentioned, there's actually, I thought it was right here. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a great video at the beginning. I'm not going to try to show this to you, but I would encourage you to watch it. And then there's, just general information about what we're trying to do, ways to stay connected. So you would want to fill out that contact form. And that way you'll find out more. There is a Twitter and Facebook and I assume that's Snapchat.
Instagram.
Instagram. So there's, different ways to follow the program as well. But one of the new ways, and we'll go to this next, is this Mind Mixer, but I'll stay on the website itself for a second. So that's just your homepage and how to find different ways to connect. And then in the About section, there's really some great information to kind of, restate some of what Esmeralda was sharing with us about the different concerns that we have in our areas. But this is where the documents are right now, and there's some fantastic documents in here. So there's a great overview, and they are, as she mentioned, in multiple languages. The full municipal vulnerability preparedness report for Beverly, as well as for Salem, and then the full greenhouse gas summary. So some of what Esmeralda shared with us was extracted from that, but there's even more detail within that. So, so if you're looking for more detail, that's where to find it. And then the Get Involved section is, again, kind of the ways that we are trying to engage. But within that, we've got kind of these specific planned elements. So I'll just open one up as an example. So you'll see, a really nice summary of what they're looking at in each of the sectors. Regarding energy is this one, and what, where some of the, how many solar power installations there are, community choice aggregation. So it looks at a lot of the different things that are already going on, as well as perhaps, what we might want to do additionally, right? So let me, hold on, close that out, get back to the website. And I'll just put a lot of the folks on the call are interested in buildings and building development. And so, it talks about some of the developments that are going on here in Beverly, and I'll put up my own little plug in. It mentions the passive house project we're doing at Waring, which is nice to see as well. So, so there's some great information in each of these, on each of the sectors. And then, as I mentioned, there's this this Mind Mixer tool. And rather than clicking through that, I actually have it already opened on my website, and hopefully it will work. Did those other documents show when I shared them, when I clicked through?
Yes.
Okay. So then I think this will show. Is this now showing Resilient Together?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the Mind Mixer site. You do have to sign in and make yourself an account, which is why I'm not stepping through that process right now. So I've already have my own account, and you can see different things here. So if you go back to the home, a lot of information is here similarly to the website, I would say. So if you do make an account, this might be your starting point from that point on. But this is where, we're trying to engage the community more. So we're asking questions. There's a description. Generally, there's some more detail. So again, it would pull you kind of back to that same fact sheet that we showed you on the regular web page. And then you can type in your idea. What do you want to do? What do you want to see about that? So that we can start collecting that. And there's ways to share that out if you'd like, or just simply put that information in. So there's lots of different conversations. You can join the conversation and have interactions back and forth with folks. And again, going through each of these, and each of them is kind of, they're providing a time frame that they'd like to try to get responses back, and they're slowly kind of putting these questions out, right, as we go. And Esmeralda, I don't know if you might be able to respond to, I don't know exactly what the plan and the timing is, and I don't know if you're more familiar with that or not, as to how that's going to be rolling out.
You mean with the questions on the site?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically been each week we're rolling out a new plant element. So solid waste just came out this week. But the ones that we've done previously are still on there. So you still have a chance to go back and answer those questions. And that's just more so we can promote it on social media. Like, you know, solid waste just came out this week. Here's the questions, you can answer them.
Right.
Mhm.
So those are the topics. Activity. You can see a little bit more of the dialogue going on the activity page. And you can see that Mayor Cahill, Mayor Driscoll, and Esmeralda are all listening in to whatever's being said. But it's good, you know, like there's just lots of different ways to have a conversation about, you know, whether it's topic specific or generally, about the things that are concerns to any of our citizens and any of us specifically, and what we want to see done. So I would really, you know, just strongly encourage folks to go and kind of play around on the site, learn a little bit more, and really provide that feedback, because this, you know, we're in that feedback stage, but we're you know, rapidly kind of approaching nearing that end where we really want to have the list of actions and then start going to prioritizing. But as Esmeralda mentioned, you know, it is going to be iterative, so that it's not as if there's never an opportunity to have input, but this is the best time to have input, just because otherwise, you know, it's kind of later in the process, right? So I think that, you know, one, we wanted to get this message out and share it with all of you. We are recording this, so it'll be available further to share out, but we would really encourage all, you know, each of you to think about ways that we can share this within the folks that we know, or share this with, you know, out to different organizations that might not be represented. Because while, you know, certainly those of us who are environmentally minded may be thinking about this a lot, and are, you know, action oriented and keyed into this particular program, the general population still isn't, right? And they may still have lots of concerns and lots of ideas, but they just may not know that this is out there. So with that, I'm certainly happy to go into anything that anybody wants me to, but that was kind of my primary goal, was to just kind of show you what the layout was and where things are. Are there any questions or anything that you want me to open up or see further?
There's a comment in the chat, Cindy and Esmeralda, by Bonnie Bain and John Massey, and it is, is the plan addressing in any way expanding solar and energy storage?
Yeah, definitely. We haven't gotten into those details yet, but it's definitely going to be an important part of the energy plan and element.
Yeah, I think we're more on the right. I mean, the stages that we're at right now are defining what the issues were, what the primary kind of goals were, and then starting to develop what the action plan should be to meet those goals, right? And trying to hear from the community as to kind of what the community wants to see to meet those goals, as well as what the city committees and activities that, you know, do the planning, know that they can tackle, and that might make the bigger difference. Because sometimes us mere citizens know best, and sometimes our city officials know best as to what they can do. So, but I think that that's some of the input that they're looking for, right? Is, well, what would you want to see? You know, what does resilience mean to you when it's associated with energy or energy independence, and what do we want to see?
There's another comment again by Bonnie and John, that one of the one of the solutions that they're interested in is promotion support for offshore wind. Is there any addressing of offshore wind in the plan?
So we haven't gotten into those details, but as we all know, offshore wind is a whole issue in itself. So I'm sure there might be ways on us how we can kind of support it, but without, state and federal help, can't really just do it on our own. But
Yeah, I was more commenting on what resilient means to me,
yeah.
less so about the plan. But I am going to those meetings too, so I'm already kind of familiar with how they're running. So
Great.
thanks.
Thank you.
The last issue that you brought up, Bonnie, was probably in relationship to waste and what we can do about that. And I know the Salem Recycling Committee that you're on, and Susan Yokelson is on, and I know Carol Hoto is on. I don't know if I'm missing any other recycling folks there, but it is reducing single-use plastics. Is there any particular attention paid? Have folks brought that up as an issue in responding to the surveys, Esmeralda?
Yeah, definitely. Solid waste is definitely a big issue. And of course, we know plastic is one of the greatest ones in that. But yeah, definitely going to have ways that we can help in reducing our plastic waste.
Okay, and I think a number of us, Jeff Cohen, myself, John Hayes, are concerned about supporting the green building ordinance that is currently at the Salem City Council. It was submitted by the City of Salem Sustainability, Energy, and Resiliency Committee. And the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, is now in Subcommittee Public Health, Safety, and the Environment. And as soon as some open committee meetings are announced, we will let everybody know about them, because we all need to be on board about supporting the green building ordinance. And we got a big boost for the green building ordinance, some of the parameters in the climate bill that got passed by the legislature that now sits on the governor, and the bill now sits on the governor's desk. So I want to direct all of you again to the top of the chat, where I pasted in the governor's phone numbers and the email portal by which you can send a message to the governor. And if you say nothing else, just say, please sign this bill. We need it. It's good for the economy, good for the environment, good for the people. We want that bill to pass. So if you go back and take a look at that and just send off a quick email and make it part of your daily practice. Get up, send an email to the governor, keep filling up that box with the support. Jeff Cohen, I wonder if you might want to talk about I'm looking at the next suggestion, and it came from you. Do you want to talk about that? Mass Save
Sure.
Home Energy.
I would. Just about the climate bill, for people who don't know, I did put this in the chat, but the solar, the biggest part is it's very comprehensive. Offshore wind would be a much bigger part of the portfolio, but there's 3 significant segments regarding solar. One is that the net metering caps throughout the entire state of Massachusetts, every load zone was reached in 2016. So no more community solar, no small commercial. If this bill passes, the net metering caps will be relaxed for 25 kilowatts and greater, small commercial. Municipal buildings, which would affect every community, on rooftops. And there will be incentives for lower income homeowners to be able to do solar. What Pat is talking about is something that is really important for all of us, and it goes back to what John Hayes was talking about. The Mass Save Energy assessments, most people think that they're only available to homeowners, but for the last 2 years, they've been available to tenants or renters. And we all our communities could do a better job at educating people that this is how you get the no money down, no interest loans. Insulation, which is the best return on investment to improve your sustainability of your home, is a 75% rebate. You get free light bulbs and thermostats and all sorts of stuff. But we need to do as a community a better job, because most people in Salem, for example, cannot afford air source heat pumps or solar. That's outside of their financial realm. And you know, it can be very costly. But if someone, for example, insulates their home and gets a programmable thermostat, they can actually reduce their energy consumption by 30%. So just some things for people to think about, but there's a lot we can do just by educating people in our community. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to and underscore the importance of what Jeff said, and I noticed Bonnie nodding away there, is that those Mass Save audits, home energy audits, are available to the renters. And in Salem, 50% of the residents lived, 50% of the homes that people live in are rented. So renters make up a big proportion of Salem's residential population. When you compare, I don't know what Beverly's percentage is, but I know Marblehead, at last time I checked, it was up between 85 and 90% of people own their homes in Marblehead. So there's a big difference between the communities. So
this really goes to equity, Pat, because most people think of how much do people pay for rent. We know people are being priced out of their homes as far as not being able to afford. You know, rent is going up Salem, Beverly, significantly. But the ratio of cost that people pay in, most people who rent are responsible for their heating and electric costs. And in some cases can be 25, 30% of the rent. And that by itself could make it impossible for them to stay in our community.
Well said. Let's see. Somebody, Judith Black asked the question, any good reason to engage other towns and communities on the North Shore? Are our neighboring communities engaged in a process like this, Esmeralda? Cindy?
I'm not sure actually. So I definitely speak to other community members and city officials from other communities, but not specifically for this project usually for other things.
Marblehead has, I'm sorry, Marblehead does have a climate plan.
Okay, great to know. Yeah, there are a few that have one already. I'm not sure if any are currently in the planning process right now that are around us. I mean, there's definitely good reason. There's, you know, we can show them that we're being leaders and maybe push them to start one as well, or, you know, get ideas from them as well. So definitely good reason, but the main focus has definitely been on our communities here.
Okay.
Can I raise a concern of mine? I put it in the chat.
Here, John.
It's a worry that I brought up at I'm on the advisory, the CAAC, along with Cindy and Pat and Esmeralda. And we had a wonderful Zoom session about, you know, in November, I think. And what I worry about is the South Essex Sewerage District, the climate resiliency of SESD. I've been on I was on their website earlier today, and which I was also during the November meeting. And there is zero, absolutely zero on the SESD website regarding thinking about resiliency to sea level rise, storm surge, coastal flooding with stronger storms. It's a worry. And it seems to me that the communities that are a part of SESD, I think they should be forcefully asking for a climate resiliency plan made public with transparency for SESD. It's a critical need.
So can I respond to that a bit?
Sure, Barbara.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
So SESD is working on a climate resilience plan. That's all I know, that they're working on it. They also have hired a new person who just created that website. And I'm blanking on her name right now. We were supposed to meet in December, but then she got sick. So we'll be talking this month. So they are trying, she was hired to do outreach and community engagement. That's her job. She built the website. So there is a shift going on in SESD right now. Also through a coastal resiliency grant with CZM, Coastal Zone Management. Beverly got a grant to work on the Water Street pump station, sewer pump station, which is takes all the sewerage from Essex Tech, the Middleton Jail, all of Danvers, and all of Beverly. It's right next to Jubilee Yacht Club, right above the beach there. And so there we have I'm working with them on that. They have a consultant. SESD is involved in it. SESD is doing all the current updating for flooding. So they will be putting in, there's one area that's is at risk right now of flooding. So they'll be putting in floodgates for that. But they're looking at what you can do now, protect, how to reimagine. If we have a super huge sea level rise, that pump station probably can't stay there. So where could it go? And then how do you transform it to make it last as long as it can? So they are engaging in climate risk assessments. So it is happening, but you know.
So late though, Barbara, but thanks.
Oh,
for
yeah, I know.
But so late.
Their site,
So late.
John, actually is not on filled tideland, the SESD plant. And in the maps that we showed from Woods Hole Group, they are not at risk of flooding. So within that 5 to 10 foot sea level rise. So that's interesting.
About the whole infrastructure.
Yeah, well, it affects every single community.
Yeah.
So it's very important, but I just wanted to say they are working on it. And I know they've
Great.
always been very hesitant to talk to the public, but that's starting to change. So I just wanted to put that in there.
That's really nice to hear. Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah.
So John did have another suggestion, comment, and that was he thinks Salem High School has an environmental club. Does Beverly High School also have an environmental club? And getting to, and I wanted to add to that, well, John adds to it too. We could reach out to the students and try to get them engaged in participating in the Mind Mixer and some of the other outreach, and maybe getting their parents and family members to participate too. So do you know, Esmeralda, if there's been an outreach to the high schools?
Yes, there definitely has. And we do have a couple high school students that are ambassadors and part of our equity partners. So we definitely have a partnership with them. And both schools do have an environmental club. The leaders of those clubs are the ones that we are in contact with.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
And have you been in touch? Has the MassPERG group or Sunrise at Salem State been involved in participating in this too?
Sunrise definitely, but not MassPERG.
Yeah.
I'll write that down though, so we can reach out.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess we might add Endicott College as well, and North Shore Community College to get them involved in this too.
Definitely. Thank you.
Let's see.
Yeah, I don't remember. Is Endicott part of the group currently, Esmeralda?
I think one student is an ambassador, but I don't think any of the groups on that campus are part of
Is
this.
anybody from the university itself too, from the college?
Yeah, we have the sustainability director from Endicott College and from Salem State are part of the advisory committee.
There's also a reminder in the chat from Judith Black that now that oil companies are pushing petrochemicals, now that their oil is being used less, and as we're all pushing against single-use plastics and the prevalence of plastics in general. Judith recommends that when you email the governor, that you ask him to sign the bill as is. Actually, that's all he can do. He can either veto it, veto it outright, pocket veto it, let it go past January 14th without doing anything about it, but he cannot amend any part of it. So he won't be changing the bill. He'll either be supporting it or not. Comment from Marcia Hart. Cape Ann has a citizen climate group, including Gloucester, Rockport, Manchester. Gloucester has Clean Energy Commission and Municipal Vulnerability Plan, but no sustainability coordinator. My opinion is there is more cross communication between citizens and city administration, city staff in both Beverly and Salem. Sorry, Essex is also part of the Cape Ann group. And Marcia and Cindy, is this the Town Green 2025 project that you're talking about, or is it something else? Marcia?
It
Sure,
sounds
I'll
like,
answer for Marcia. This is Lisa from
Hi,
the
Lisa.
Cape Ann Climate Coalition.
Oh, great.
And they're different.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
different, but they're similar, very similar.
Okay.
One's Cape Ann Climate Coalition is more, it's a group of citizens, and the Town Green 2025 is a more of a board, but the goals are very similar.
Great.
And
So thanks, Lisa. And for any of you, Lisa, I don't know whether all of you are on the Salem Safe listserv. If you're not on it, we hope that you will join it, that you'll go to gmail.com, sorry, and ask to be put on the Safe listserv. We'd love to get communications, Lisa and Marcia, particularly about this Cape Ann climate
Coalition.
group. Yeah, be great. Be
And
great
there's a
to,
website coming soon, but we
Great.
are on Facebook and Instagram right now.
great. So what we're realizing is that the communication, as Marcia pointed out, among many of us who are climate activists, concerned residents, is pretty active. We were all thrilled that Beverly and Salem work together on this resiliency plan, because sometimes we act like little fiefdoms, as if what happens to the coast in Salem is not going to happen to the coast in Beverly. So finally, we're all playing on the same team, hopefully, and we can share information. So Marcia and Lisa, thanks for that update on Cape Ann Climate Group. And we look forward to communicating with you and sharing our info. Anything else you want to say about that, Marcia?
No, Lisa was right. The Town Green 2025 has existed for a while, and they have a board, and they are related to the kind of the Cape Ann Climate Coalition, somewhat of an offshoot of that, but it's a citizens group with a group of citizens that are in an organizing committee. And they just were conceived last fall. No, the fall before last. So it's been in existence for a year and had some really good programs. And they're trying to accomplish a lot, but the kind of liaison between the city and the group is not as strong as yet, where your groups have been around for a while. So I commend you. And also your representatives are really active with your groups. And ours are a little less so, I would say.
I think we've done a very direct campaign to connect with our state rep, Paul Tucker, who's turned out great. We supported him in his first campaign. And I think it's important to let your state rep and your state senator know that you've been supporting them, and to be out there helping them get reelected if you like them, or supporting an opponent if you want to.
They've participated in our meetings, and but I think it's the length of time that you've been around that has built up your relationships with them, both in Beverly and in Salem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bruce
Okay.
Tar goes to the meetings.
Yeah.
He shows up at a lot of the meetings.
Okay, well, we've tried to stay to our 1 hour limit, and unless anybody else has any comments, I'm going to turn it back to Cindy Keegan, who can draw our attention to the slide she just put up.
Yeah, so I just wanted to certainly, thank everyone who attended. Put the Resilient Together website back up there one more time, in case you hadn't grabbed it from any of the other pieces of information we've provided, and let you know that our plan is for next month's topic. We typically try to meet the first Thursday of every month. Occasionally that changes. But we're looking next month's topic to be on offshore wind and what the future could bring. We have some exciting news, particularly related to Salem, but also generally for the North Shore. So we're looking forward to sharing that, and we would love to have you join us for that as well. And otherwise to, find out more information as to what we might be hosting or what we're up to is, again, to follow us on any of those platforms that you like most. And I think with that, we'll close the official meeting and stop the recording. And then if anybody else has any further discussion that we want to do, you're welcome to stay on for a bit.
Just